All right, let's dive right in. What if I told you that the operating manual for the entire universe isn't some crazy complex equation, but it's actually hidden in plain sight, inside something you see every single day?
Yeah, what if photosynthesis, the process that turns sunlight into a green leaf, isn't just a neat little biological trick? What if it's actually a universal blueprint, a pattern that scales all the way up to explain consciousness, life, and the very fabric of reality itself? It sounds kind of wild, I know, but let's explore how this simple act reveals a hidden cosmic structure.
So, according to the source material, everything in existence, everything, starts with one simple choice. Every single bit of energy, whether it's a photon of sunlight or a spark of creativity in your mind, faces two, and only two possible fates. It can be stored or it can be released. And this slide just illustrates it perfectly. On one side, you've got the tree. It represents storage. It's this slow, quiet, steady process that takes light and painstakingly turns it into lasting structure and information. Then you have the other side, fire. That's all about release. It's fast, it's loud, it's super dramatic, but it just burns right through form, leaving basically nothing behind. One builds, the other destroys, and that's the fundamental split. Okay, so this choice, this fundamental decision between the tree and the fire, is our key. It's what unlocks this hidden universal structure that the source material calls the 2-3-7 pattern. And this isn't some random framework. It's something that just naturally emerges from the way energy itself behaves. So the pattern kicks off with two. No surprise there. It's the two possible fates of energy we just talked about. You either store it or you release it. Creation or consumption. The tree or the fire. That's the basic choice at the heart of everything. From 2, we naturally build to 3. See, for energy to actually be stored, to follow the path of the tree, it has to go through this universal 3-part processor. You got to have an input, then a structure to process that input, and finally a stable output.
Photosynthesis is the absolute perfect example of this. The input? That's light, just raw energy and information. The process? That happens inside the leaf, which acts as both the structure and the medium. And the output? Glucose, a stable, stored form of that initial light. This little input-process-output system is the absolute minimum you need to create anything that lasts.
And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, 7. Now, 7 represents the full expression of that stored energy, once it gets distributed across a whole living system. And this isn't some mystical number, it's purely functional. Just look at a plant. That single input of light, once it's converted, powers 7 totally distinct functions. Things like growth and repair, reproduction, defense, you get the idea. Each one is a different, stable outcome, but they all come from the exact same stored energy. It's the complete, fully differentiated expression of light.
But here's where it gets truly fascinating. This is the mind-bending part. This pattern isn't just about botany. The source material argues that this exact same 2-3-7 structure repeats itself at every single level of reality, from you and me all the way up to the cosmos itself.
Just look at how this model holds up. For a human, the light or input is information. The processing structure we use is our understanding. And the output, the fruit, is our actions and ultimately our character. Then zoom all the way out to the cosmic scale. The input is the light of universal laws, processed through matter to produce the fruit of life and intelligence. The pattern is exactly the same, just on a different scale.
So to really get this, we have to understand how the universe, just like a leaf, focuses light, right? Because if light were just scattered everywhere, all diffused, nothing would ever form. It has to be concentrated.
And this focusing mechanism has a name. It's called a caustic. You've definitely seen one before. It's those bright, shimmery patterns of light at the bottom of a coffee cup or swimming pool. On a much, much bigger scale, you see it in the filamentary structures of galaxies. A caustic is simply where potential becomes potent.
And it turns out that life, consciousness, and stable matter, they only show up in these caustic zones, these places where energy is focused enough to collapse into a lasting form. From this point of view, Earth's very specific conditions, the water, the atmosphere, the gravity, make it a perfect photosynthetic chamber, not just for plants, but for consciousness itself.
So the crucial point is this. The cosmos isn't just random chaos. It's a system that's designed to do what a tree does, to take fleeting, temporary light and convert it into lasting structure, information, and meaning. The universe consistently, and I mean consistently, prefers the tree over the fire.
So that brings us to a really practical question, right? If reality itself has this built-in bias toward creation and storage, well, how do we consciously get in on that? How do we choose the tree over the fire in our own lives?
To answer that, the source material offers up this fascinating operational manual, a framework for actually applying this cosmic principle. It calls it the game of books, and it describes this methodical sequence drawn from verses in the Quran that's specifically designed to neutralize chaotic, destructive forces, in other words, to tame the fire.
It's a 4-step process, a kind of playbook. First, the activator. You hold on tight to an unchanging truth, an unwavering book of principles. Second, the method. You orient yourself toward the permanent source of reality, not all the temporary things that come and go. Third, the witness. You question chaos and falsehood relentlessly until they just collapse under the scrutiny. And finally, the result. Those destructive forces like fear and coercion, the fire, they lose all their power.
According to the source, this first step is everything. It's the absolute key. Taking the book with strength means anchoring your consciousness to a truth that doesn't change. That anchor is what allows you to navigate the chaos of all the temporary things, and it's the real starting point for aligning with the universe's creative, tree-like process.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. The simple act of a leaf turning sunlight into sugar isn't some quirky, isolated event. It's a miniature model of the fundamental operating system of reality itself.
This is it. This is the 237 universe. You have a choice between 2 paths for energy, a 3-part processor that's required for creation, and 7 differentiated functions that pop out as the full expression of life. It is a pattern that scales from a single cell all the way up to the entire cosmos.
And that leaves us with one final thought. If the whole universe is running on this one principle, this choice between being a tree or being a fire, well, then that exact same choice applies to us. Every moment, with every thought and every action, we are either storing light by creating lasting form and meaning, or we're just burning it. So the question is, which one are you?